Hi guys, welcome back to Bunny Brick Designs. So today I thought I would do another wire wrapping video and give the bead embroidery a break for the moment. I have this cabochon and I don't remember what the stone is. I think it was like sea sediment jasper or something. And I mean, if you look at this stone, I mean, it's incredibly beautiful. It's got pinks and blues and some kind of coppery color in there, and um so yeah, and it's a stone. I mean, it's definitely not, um it could be man-made. I don't know. I don't remember where I got it, but it's really really pretty. um so we're going to wrap that today, and I thought I would do another video, and thank you to whomever bought the templates from me. I'll put a link in the description again for these templates that I created. I'm debating whether I want to do a round one and just go around it, or if I want to do a teardrop shape that way, or maybe a pointed shape that way. I think I like the round idea, just going around it, and maybe doing, because I don't want to get rid of any of this color, and I'm thinking the pink on the top. So I was thinking maybe doing a cage and then just doing a little swirl there, and maybe bringing something down and swirling here so it's kind of following the pattern. But first we're going to have to make our cage. So I am going to start out, and I'm going to use, and this is 20 gauge round. I think I'm going to grab my 21 gauge square for this, because I like square better when I'm doing cages. I think they wrap better, and oops, that's my 16 gauge. Ah, grabbed the wrong one. There we go. Ooh, I am almost out of square wire. And when I say almost out, like, I got plenty, but I like to have full rolls. So I will probably have to order some more wire. So I'm not sure what I want to do. So I am going to take, and I'm going to measure this. So I'm trying to find a measure. I'm probably going to take, probably a good 14 inches, just because I like to have extra. Just because in case I want to do something fancy, because again, you never know when you're going to change your mind when you're designing on the fly. So, and yeah, I could always add more wires later, but I find that, I do my best designing when I have extra wire, and it's like, okay, what do I want to do with it? Do I want to cut it off? Do I want to use it? And then, inspiration comes. All right, so I've got my wires, and they're kind of curved. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use my wire straightener, and I'm just going to pull it through a couple of times. Just to give it a nice good straighten. So it's not going to be perfect, but as you can see, it's much better than the curve from when you pull it off the spool. So I'm just going to go this way, and there we go, much better. And yes, granted, I'm going to curve this again anyways, but I want to get my wires joined together before I start wrapping it, so I know where my center point is. And so if you wanted to, you could line these up. I eyeball my center point, but if you really, really wanted to, you could line them up. You're taking about 14 inches, so 7 would be my center point. I could take a little Sharpie and just kind of mark my wires where my center point is. Just so I know. And then I am going to use just a small piece, and I'm going to snip off my messy thing there. I'm just going to take about a 4-inch piece of half round wire, and I'm going to line up my center points here now that I've marked them. Okay, there's 2. Where's my center point? Did it wipe off? Nope, there it is. Okay, these keep rotating. There we go. There's 3. All right, so I've got my center points lined up, and I'm making sure my wires, because they're square, are flat to each other. You don't want to, you definitely don't want to have one wire skewed when you're doing this. So now they're all together and they're all nice and tight. I'm just going to take my half round, making sure my rounded side is up. I'm going to make a little hook just because it's easier to get a hold of it. And I am going to hold it there. And I am just going to wrap it once with the tail. And I know it's messy at the moment, but that's fine. And now I'm just going to turn it around so that you guys can see easier. And I'm just going to wrap this nice and tight as I can get it, maybe 5 or 6 times. And I'm going to take this tail and just tighten that up a little bit, just so it's nice and even. And then I'm going to flatten that. And I think I'm going to do one more. And then you just need to decide which is going to be your top and which is going to be your bottom. I think looking at the neatness, this side is going to be my outside, this side's going to be my inside. So I'm just going to fold my wire over and make a little snip so that I am somewhere in the middle of my 3 wires. And then I'm just going to flatten that down. And I'm just using my flat pliers because that's what I had out. Doesn't matter. You can use whatever tools you have. All right. So now that I've gotten that and I'm nicely in the center, and that will shift a little bit, I am just going to take my template, which is the same size as my stone. And I don't need this to be any bigger than this stone, so I'm not going to use a bigger template. I'm just literally going to, and it doesn't matter which way you do it. If you want to go up, you can go up. If you want to come down, you can come down. I'm just going to come down because it's easier for you to see on camera. And I'm going to hold my finger on the center point, and I'm going to just start wrapping it around this. Now, I know a lot of people on videos take these and wrap them around the cabochon. The problem is the cabochon, to show you, the cabochon's got a domed surface. So when you start wrapping around, your bottom wire is flat, but then as you get up, it starts making this skewed just a little bit. So I made these templates so that I know when I'm wrapping, all 3 of my wires are going to be the same. They're going to be in the same level area, so that when I'm doing this, if you look at it, it's perfectly round. Now, I haven't finished yet, and I know you're looking at this going, that looks horrible. But what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get it so that these wires stay together. And and that's because that one's inside of that. So we're just going to pull this guy outside of him for now. I'm trying to keep them the same. So one being the top, one being the middle, and one being the bottom. And I'm just going to wrap until it crosses. And then what you can do is, if you aren't sure of where it crosses, you can stand it up, figure out exactly where your center point is. And again, with a Sharpie, just draw your line where you want your bend to be for your tail. And then you can just take these, pinch on, lift up, pinch and lift up, and then you just straighten it out. Oops, and don't do that. Don't straighten it out like I just did. Not paying attention here, so I just messed that up. Let me straighten this out, because I pulled. That's what I get for not paying attention and talking. Hopefully I didn't mar the wires too bad. So this side should be okay. See, this side's going to be okay. It should be. It's this side that needs to come around. And that's the beauty of this frame maker, is if I mess something up, I can just rewrap it around my frame maker and I am good to go. So I think I'm going to bend this, and I can bend this on the frame maker here like this. So now that I have my shape, again, you don't have to crisscross them. You can do like I just did there. That gives me my shape back, my nice round shape. And see, what I was doing is I was trying to straighten these wires out while holding on to it. What I forgot was I tried to straighten these wires out and I wasn't holding on to it. Now that I've gotten my shape here, and let me uncross these wires, I am going to hold on to them. And again, I'm not perfect at wire wrapping. Please, bear with me. I'm still learning. But I am going to take this and I am going to wrap this with a piece of half round, except I'm going to leave this on the spool, because what I'm going to do is once I've gotten it pinched exactly where I need everything to be, and kind of trying to flatten everything out here so that they're flat together like this, I'm going to wrap this around, and I'm taking a long tail and just wrapping, because what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to secure this and start making a bail. And once I've gotten it down to where I need it to be, I'm just going to take that half round, stick it through, and wrap around one side just once, and make sure that is tucked in nice and tight. And then I am going to come down around and do the second one, but on the second one I am going to trim off that end so it's tucked in on the inside. And now I have my frame set. And now if I want to continue on with a bail, which I do, I'm going to pull out my two front wires, which is this one and this one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get these close together, and then I am just going to start, and I'm really bending these out of the way, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start wrapping. If I don't bend my, and see, that's what I did. I just bent. You've got to be very careful that you don't twist up, and I'm going to have to cut that off because I twisted it there. So I'm just going to cut there, tuck that guy in, and we'll start fresh. And so what I may do instead of is I may take a nice long tail here, turn this guy around, and then wrap it this way so that I know I am wrapping correctly. And so I'm just going to make a small bail. I'm not making like a wide bail or anything. So I'm just wrapping my half round around. And then smushing it down with my finger. So basically I'm making a coil with 2 wires. Now you don't have to do this way. You don't have to use half round. You can use, 24, 26 gauge wire and make a bail, do a weave, do whatever you want to do. I'm just doing this way because I just want this to be small because I want this to be my focal. All right, so now that I've gotten some going, I am going to just squish this down and flatten it out a little bit, making sure it's pushed down just to make sure that it looks even and uniform. And again, I'm going around. This goes pretty quick when you're coiling. And so I'm going to do about 1 inch, if I don't twist my wire there, which I just did. But I think I already have 1 inch there anyways. So I don't want a huge bail on this because I don't want it to take away. So I'm about 3/4 of an inch, and I think that's good enough. It's not like it's going to have a lot of stuff tied to it. So what I'm going to do now is separate my wires left and right. And I'm going to take my bail making pliers and figure out about the size that I want it. I think that'll be about right. So what I'm looking at here is my round barrel here. I just need to make sure that this is going to go all the way around my barrel. So I'm right up against the frame. And I do believe that's going to go all the way down and around. And maybe not. So I'm going to go down to the next size down. And again, just tighten that up. Because again, I don't need a huge bail. I just wanted something small. And now I can snip off this guy here. And tuck him in behind, back in and behind. And at this point, my frame is not attached, but that's fine because what I can do is once I get the stone in and set, I can set up my frame and take these wires and attach them to the frame. Now I'm just smoothing out my front of my bail because it was twisted a little bit, just so it's straight. All right, so now that we've gotten that, I am going to set my stone. Whoops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend these wires out of the way. I am going to take my tweezer nose pliers and just make a twist in that back wire. So I'm just going to lift up on it and give it a little twist. Just lift up on the back wire here and give it a little twist in so that it's got something for the stone I keep dropping to set in it. And so then we're going to put the stone in now and set it in. And now it's in, however, the front of it is still kind of loose. So I'm just going to take these wires and kind of lift them up around the stone just a little bit. Now you could put a twist in it, and I'm going to put a twist up here, just right there, just a little bit. Again, I'm going to cover that probably with some decoration because I don't like having big gaping holes there. So now that's in, that's not going anywhere. So now I can take these wires here, because now I have my bale, or I have my my cabochon in the frame. I can't talk tonight. Sorry, guys. And I'm going to lift up on these, and I'm just going to stick them through one at a time, just because it's easier. And I'm going to cut these off because I don't want a ton of decoration on this. Get that out of the way. And so I am just going to pull, wiggle them through and pull, and that guy's bent a little bit, but that's fine. We'll pull him through, pull them through until my bale is right where I need it to be. And then I am going to just take one wire and wrap it to the right and one wire and wrap it to the left here. And then once I'm around close to the back, I'm going to snip off, leaving just a little bit of a tail that I can use to tuck in back down here. And we will straighten up this bale here in a minute. All right, so now that's in, and that side of the bale is secure. It's not going anywhere. And we're going to do the same thing to this side. Leaving myself a nice little tail there. Not too long, you don't want it to go all the way through. I just want it to go wrap in and tuck in and around, just so that there's nothing sticking out. So there we go. So that's in. Just going to neaten that up a little bit. And neaten this side up a little bit because I want it right up to the frame. All right, so now we've got 2 wires here and 2 wires here. I do want to do some kind of a spiral, and I think I'm going to take and just do a curve in this direction. And again, this is going to be organic, and I'm taking both of the wires, and I'm just going to curve it here and make a loop in front of that spot, and then just wrap it around back, and we will tie it off here in a minute. And then I'm going to take this other one and come over the top, and then we're going to curve it. Oh, let's see. I want to come over the top, and then we're going to curve it. No, we're going to curve it this way, over the top, come back around, and then we're going to come across. Yes? No, I don't like that. I like the over the top thing. I just don't know what I want to do with it from there. So maybe if we do over the top, and I'm going to have to straighten my wires out here just a little bit. Again, this is what happens in real life when you're wire wrapping. You change your mind. I know a lot of videos out there, you don't see that. I think maybe what I'm going to do is, because I'm coming over the top, I'm going to do a loop here. I like that idea. Come down here, and then maybe come back behind, and that will work. And then I think maybe we'll just put some beads there. So we'll pull these back here. We'll create a loop back here, and I can cut that off, and we can anchor it down with some 26 gauge wire. So that'll work there. And then this one, I think, can come back up and maybe come over here, form a swirl here. And again, we can anchor that with some 26 gauge wire. We'll cut that off. And we'll curl those in. So I'm just going to curl one and a little more toward the center there. And then the other one is just going to follow. And so we have a swirl. So I'm going to anchor that down just because I do need to anchor it down. And then I think what I'm going to do, I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like that. So I like that it goes over this, but I'm not liking that swirl. I like that. I'm going to put a bead there, I think, and a bead there. And so maybe we'll put a bead in there and anchor those. I'm wondering if I just need to curl this just a little more and set that on the side there and anchor that down. Nope, see, I don't like it. We're cutting that off. That's it. And again, don't be afraid to change your mind about your design. And we're just going to tuck those. Just going to tuck these guys right in there. So it is tucked in and hidden. See, I like that. It's more simple. It's simple. And we're going to put some beads on it here. I'm going to grab my copper spacer beads. So I have 3 different sizes of copper spacer beads. And I'm going to take a bit of 26 gauge wire. And I am going to see about adding some beads. Now I think I want to add some beads along the side. I also want to add some beads up here. So I'm going to start out by, I'm going to make a hook and I'm going to try to get my wire through there somewhere and wrapped around the bail somewhere. I'm going to maybe do it around back here because it looks like I don't have a lot of room where I want to stick my bead, so I don't necessarily want to wrap it too much. And you can use your tweezer nose or your needle nose pliers to get in there because I don't have small enough fingers. And I'm just going to wrap that a second time. We will be cutting off this end, so I'm not too worried about it getting, bent. And now that I've got my wire on, I'm going to stick my wire just through the frame. I'm just trying to get it to where I need it to be. So I'm now coming out the center, and I think I want to put maybe 2 or 3 beads there. And so I'm going to take a small bead. I think this is a 2 or a 3 millimeter bead. And I'm going to try not to have twisted wire. Like I do there. And I think we're going to put one of these 4 mil and see how that goes. And then we'll see if we need a third bead to fill in, because I want to fill in right there. And I think that looks good. And I'm going to wrap that around my frame and come down around underneath my hole here. And we are going to put a 4mm in there. And fill up my space there. And I'm just going to take my wire, and now I'm going to go through. I'm basically just going to do one wrap right through that loop, just to secure that bead. And then I'm going to stick my wire back through the frame, and if I can not twist up the wire too much here. Come on. Oh, don't twist. It's just not cooperating tonight. There we go. And I am going to anchor down really quickly these wires right here. Whoops, I don't want those. I want those. So I'm just going to lift up on this back wire just a hair, just so I can get my wire through here. And I'm just going to do a couple wraps on that spot right there, and then we will wrap. I will take another piece of wire separately and do a couple wraps on the loops themselves, just to anchor that down so it's not snagging on people. And now I'm set up for what I think I want to do, because I just was thinking about it. I think I want to do possibly some beads either down the side here or just coming up across here to fill in. And I want to do graduated. So I'm going to do 1 2mm, 1 or 3mm, 1 4mm, and then a 6mm or 5, I think this is 6mm, and see what that looks like. Because what I'm thinking is I want to do graduated like that, and that's fine. It can start out there, and that's, no, I need to reverse that. I need to put I need to do smalls. Let's do several smalls. I may not do I may not end up doing the 6mm. That may be too big. So I'm going to do 2 of each just to see where it lays, because I do want it to and then I think, yep, I'm going to go down the side. I'm going to do a big one. We'll do 2 big ones, 3 big ones down the side. And then graduate down to little. We'll do 2. Let's see where that falls. That falls. Do I like that? Or do I want to go across like that? Actually, I just did that, and now I like that. See, and this is the beauty of designing on the fly. Like, you want to put beads on, and you think you have an idea, and then you move the beads in a direction and suddenly you get a better idea. So yeah, just let your imagination run with it. And I like that. And I'm going to, first of all, before I do that, I'm going to cut off my tail here from the starting point and just tap that down. Hi, bunny. I got a bunny under my feet. There's too much of a tail there. So as you can see, there's a little tail. I just didn't want it to be sticking out too far. All right, so now that I've gotten that, I can take this and I can wrap around the bail and just, oops, and I broke my wire that fell on the floor. All right, so that happens sometimes if you're working with wire. It broke, but it did get a wrap around, so I'm okay with that. See, it's right there. So I'm able to at least get 1.5 wraps. I'm okay with that. So now we've got a lot of beads up there. Now I want to do some beads down here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a smaller piece of that wire, and I'm going to cut off where it broke. I am going to anchor it if I can get underneath. Lift up that wire just a hair. I think I'm just going to anchor it right here. And I'm going to do a couple wraps. Like that, and just get it. And I will cut off the tail here in a second. I just wanted to get it nice and tight. So now I'm just going to snip that tail, and I'm going to turn these around so I have a nice flush cut. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail just so I can take that and tuck it ever so gently in toward the frame. So now when I rotate it where I want it, it has the tail is now up against the stones, so there is no rough edges. Now I think what I want to do is I just want to kind of pull this down. I want to curve this over and down. So I just want to do something like that, just so I have a mirror. So I'm going to take 2 small, and then I'm going to do 2 of the 4mm, and I'm making a mess, which I will clean up in a minute. And I'm going to see where this places me, because I think I might just need to do that with a couple more small, because again, I just want to, I kind of want to do something like that. And so I think maybe 2 more small. And that should give me what I need to do a wrap down here under this wire. So I'm just going to lift up just a hair, and I will flatten it back out, and I'm just going to pull this wire through, get it in place where I want it to go, and I'm just going to wrap around. So there's 1. And this will also help to secure your stone. 2, and I'm going to do 3. And then we are going to just snip right in there if I can. Or the other thing you can do is twist. And there we go. So now I've got lots of little beads, and that one's kind of loose, and that one's very loose because my wire's coming off. So let me undo this. That one's kind of loose because the beads were shifting and I don't want them to shift, so I may have to add another bead there in order to get that to be secure. And I think because I broke that wire, I'm going to have to reattach another wire. So I'm going to snip this off. And that'll happen sometimes. You'll get that. And I'm going to take another piece of... Yes, Bunny, do you need a cookie? All right. Sorry, guys. I got somebody biting at my pant leg. Little Miss Velvet is down here biting at Mom's pant leg because she wants treats. All right. So... And yes, I'm using my fingernails to flatten down wires. So now I know I want to come out there. So I am going to attach, if I can get a wire through there somewhere. Trying to find a hole. And attach this wire. There we go. So now I can stick that through there again and use my tweezer nose and try to pull this tight and get that right up there because we don't want messy in the back. So I'm going to pull this up if I can and trying to tighten this and do another wrap through there before we cut off. Okay. I just flattened that down. Now I can rebead that section with the new wire. And sometimes that happens. You got to keep in mind that if you pull too much on 26 gauge wire that it will break. And I'm going to put 3 beads on for the small. I'm going to do 3 of the medium. Or 2 of the medium, 1 of the big. I'll probably end up doing 2 of the big. I just want to see where it lays at this point. So we got 2. I may do 3 big. Two of the medium and 3 small, or and see, we're going to do 2 small to start and see if that is now enough beads to be tightly wrapped around. And that looks like it's enough to be tightly wrapped where there's not going to be any space. I'm not going to need the 3rd one. But I am going to wrap around. And just so this doesn't come through I'm going to try to get this to go maybe underneath something. Again, I just want it nice and tight so it's not going to go anywhere. I'm going to do a third wrap, and I think we should be good then. Because 1.5 just apparently didn't cut it. And I am trying to pull this in between my bail wires so that it is nice and tight. I'm going to snip that off and then tuck it in. Flatten it out there. All right, perfect. That's much better. I like that. I really do like that. Now we just got to tuck in these wires here. So this is where I was talking about we needed to make sure these, because as you can see, that's sticking up. And so all you have to do is give this a nice tuck, like bend. So what I'm doing is I'm just bending my wires so they will flatten down. And then I can use the back side of flat nose pliers just to flatten it down to where I want it so that, again, no sharp edges are sticking out. And then I've got a perfect joint right here. So between these two and this bend, I have a perfect joint. So all I have to do is just pull up my wire and wrap it a couple of times. And it's going to be loose to start out with, and that's fine. Once we get this in there a couple of times, it'll look a little bit neater. And the only reason why I'm using the little tail is because the big tail would be harder to go try to get through the whole of those loops. You always want to find the path least resistance when you're working with wire. Otherwise, you will get frustrated. Believe me, I have done it many, many times where I'm doing something and I can't get my wire through, and I'm off camera, and I'll tell you, swearing does ensue. I have, sworn several times at things, including at one point, I was doing some wire wrapping and things weren't coming out, and I honestly swore off wire wrapping for like 6 months. I was like, I'm never touching wire again. And then I keep seeing these gorgeous pendants, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I want to do that. So it can be frustrating when you first start out. All right, so now I'm going to snip, now that that's secured, and I'm going to tuck in that tail, and I'm just going to use the tips of the pliers to kind of push it down in toward the cabochon, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Leave myself a little bit of a tail there. Make a little bend and tuck that in, and just kind of try to keep it from coming out. And I'm just going to try to neaten that up as best I can. And so now that's nice and secure. So you're going to want to feel around if you feel any sharp edges, like there's a sharp edge there somewhere. I'm not sure where, but you're going to want to make sure that any sharp edges are tucked down. And so see, that one was the sharp edge. And I can snip a little of that off. And instead of wrapping it around, I can find a little hole and stick that in that hole. So now it's not sticking out because it's literally in the middle of all of those beads. All right, so there we go. So I like that. I like the extra beads. And again, this is going to be a little bit loose. It is going to move just a little bit. You could secure it with some glue or some UV resin or something if you wanted to, but to be honest, I'm good with it moving around just a little. I like the beads here. Again, you can adjust it and play with it for your spiral. I like that it looks like, you know, when you're coming out, it's like, oh, beads are coming out, spiraling around, and then, oh, there's some more beads down there. I did realize that I wanted the pink at the top, and I ended up with the blue at the top, and that's fine. Anyways, just a quick little pendant using my template. That was probably the easiest part of this, was using the template to create the frame. So we created that. It didn't take, you know, about an hour. We did it live, well, recorded, but we did it. No editing, no nothing, so you saw it. So anyways, I hope you liked it. I'm going to be doing one here coming up, and I will show you. I've got it started. So it is another one of my paint pour cabochons that I made, and I started putting some copper leaf on the back, and it didn't quite come out the way I wanted it to, which is fine. I wanted it to be modeled, not perfect, but I still need to touch up some spaces. So I am probably going to do that on the video with you. I do need to file down some of these edges and get some of this stuff off the edge, unless I decide to do copper on the edges, because there's extra glue there that needs filed off. And then we will UV resin the back, and then I'm going to make a round, and actually I'm looking at that looks really cool. I'm going to make a round cabochon with it in the next one. So anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.